Most of I think of Rod as like a cat in future. He's one the shots and poster and is the butt of all kinds of jokes and so on. I think many of us ambivalence is to precisely his role in contemporary South. On the one hand, it's very common tool for intense see a free friends who is sharpening all their pencils and making sure all their other writing utensils are in good order and say, oh, there are being very anal. For example, or somebody might say your behavior is very neurotic. It's common sense to describe aspects of human behavior in terms that Freud and many is colleges popularized in the first part of the 20th century. On the other hand, as I have said, many people think of Freud as someone poised between science and literature, and it's by no means the case that psychoanalysis as a movement had anything like the prestige that they did 15, 17, 5 years ago. So I think many of us are ambivalent as between on the one hand we want to try to explain our own and others' behavior in psychoanalytic terms or at least using some of the principles of psychoanalysis. But on the other hand, we are not sure that tourism basis must according to contemporary standards in a sense you want to have our cake and eat it too when it comes to using psychoanalytic ideas. The question is that legitimate attitude to have, and if not, why is it not? But back to the principle of inference to the best explanation, just to make sure we are clear. In principle, it is a perfectly adequate way of seeing to justify a hypothesis as to how things work. So, for example, about a century ago, in the earlier part of the 20th century, scientists come forward with the idea of plate tectonics as an explanation for a number of phenomena that are always puzzling, such as earthquakes and the creation of mountain range. For about a half a century after that, advance about the spreading of the self-law came to provide pretty powerful justification for that theory. So that while generally speaking one can't observe the movement of plates that make up the crust of the earth, nevertheless one can that indirect advance such as self-law spreading row of mountains eruption of volcanoes and many other things that can accounted for according to the theory of plate tectonics. And if that's right, that provides powerful support for that theory. That's a theory that is widely accepted by scientists today. Can something like that happen for Freud's approach? That's a question that we'll be asking. The second one is the idea that those particular unconscious processes are primarily engaged with impulses of a sexual and violent character, that the bulk of what's happening in your unconscious minds and, according to him, explain a lot of human behavior. Remember, first prince, if you're in a state of believing or wanted, of expressing or wondering or expressing something, then you can't help but not that, at least if you pay a tiny bit of attention to your own mind. That's why Descartes was able to, in the process of developing his outrageous theory of the cycle, what stayed out with introspect. That is start out with the idea that he could survey what's going on side of his mind and be sure that he caught everything that he was looking for. Whereas it frauds, right, some processes are not open to inspection. Other processes very difficult to find by means of introspection. What is furthermore talking, especially for the late Victorian audience that he was speaking to, is that those processes are very much about sexuality and violence. The idea being that without necessarily being aware of it, many of us have the profile others toward repressive sexual active toward unfearing violence that left to their own device would probably express themselves in our behavior, but somehow for most of us manage not to do so, and this will require some explain as to how that goes. There is a difference between something being and something being unconscious. There are all kinds of phenomena that happen inside me that am non-conscious and not in any sense unconscious. The growth of my fungi, my metabolism, the person that happens to produce a visual image, for example, are all processes within me that are non-conscious, but that does not make them unconscious. What would be required to make a process inside of me? Cognitive things like beliefs, expressions, information processing essentially effective, and that's going to include cases of emotions and moods where emotions are mental states that come with a feeling, but that also have an object. There will be things like feel and hope. There is always an answer to the questions what you're afraid of or what you're hopeful about. Then other types of affective state going to the moods, such as anxiety, that might or might not have an object. There may not be an answer to the question what are you anything about, for example, as well as experiential states such as experiencing the smell of vanilla or test of a lemon. So shows she primary types of mental states, cognitive, affective, experiential, are going to be the core constituents of the mind. To come with that, there are an encouraging phenomenon is therefore going to be to claim that there is a phenomenon that's inside of me that is not conscious but is nevertheless a cognitive, affective, or experience state. Now the question is what sorts of things cloud should be, what would they be like, how could we possibly be convinced that any of those things is actually occurring inside of us.